What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. This is a big one. I'm going to talk today about the DPS class that I'm going to be maining in the next patch, in patch 10.2. So this is going to be a big video. I'm going to cover 11 DPS specs that I have considered looking at, and I'm going to explain to you why I'm not going to be playing them and why they're still potentially good to play. I don't want to discourage any of you guys from playing whatever specs you want to play. We all play specs for different reasons, and I think a large majority of the DPS specs in this game right now are basically viable, and they're going to be viable in 10.2. I just don't happen to like some of the playstyles that are coming through. When I'm thinking about moving into a new patch, I'm thinking about what's exciting going on in the new patch for each spec. So what is the tier set bonus going to give us? What new talent changes have come through? Is there something new and exciting and fresh for me to try as a player? And if there isn't, or if it's just kind of stale in terms of what the tier set is offering, I'm not really as inclined to go for it, okay? So I'm going to talk about 3 different sections of this video. The first section will be specs that I'm like definitely not going to play, but again, I'm going to defend those specs and why they're still good to play. I'll just explain why I don't want to play them, okay? Second part will just be specs that I'm definitely interested in, but I probably won't have time to play, but I think are much more interesting than that first set. And then the final section will be specs that I am absolutely going to play or alt. And I'll talk about all that when I get there, okay? So, yeah, without further ado, let's just dive right in. I'm going to start with Unholy DK. This was right on sort of the bottom of the list. The tier set bonus is pretty cool. It basically takes your AoE damage from going like this to kind of smoothing it a little bit. So, like, when you have Army of the Dead up as an Unholy DK and you have your big cooldowns ready to go, you are smashing in a big AoE pull in Mythic Plus, let's say. But then as soon as you're done with Army, your AoE damage kind of falls off a little bit. It's not that great. This tier set bonus is going to give you an extra Magus of the Dead. They do these splashing shadow bolts like all over the place. It's definitely going to smooth out that curve, which I think is really, really good. It'll be like Army of the Dead, and then it'll be like Apocalypse, and then nothing. And then Army of the Dead, and then Apocalypse, nothing, and then Apocalypse, and then Army of the Dead. You know, see what I'm saying? It's going to be that kind of thing. So your new big cooldown is Apocalypse. It's going to be really great. It's going to give you that extra AoE damage going out. On single target, you're getting 5% more damage and an additional Magus whenever you press Apocalypse. So you're going to take the talent here that gives you a Magus anyway, so you'll have 2 Maguses for AoE, but also 2 on single target, which will give you a little bit more single target damage, which is great. The issue that I still have for Unholy DK is that there's a million buttons that you still need to press just to get going. When I run into this pack, I have things like Empowered Room Weapon that I want to get started. I have to get my diseases going right away. I should put Defile down so that my Scourge Strike will splash. I'm not even worried about that. I got to get my Festering Wounds going so then I can press Apocalypse. Then I also have to press Army. I have to press Timmy here to get Super Timmy. I have to press Unholy Might. I forgot about Abomination. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there's literally 700 buttons that you need to press before you can sort of really start doing damage. So that is the most frustrating part in my mind about how Unholy DK still works. And a big, big reason why I don't want to play Unholy is because look at the Magus of the Dead damage. Like, the damage coming out of this thing is going to be good. Don't get me wrong. I just don't like that there's 700 setup buttons that you need to press still. I feel like they need to just bake in some of these abilities. I know you don't have to take all these. You don't have to take Defile. You don't have to take Unholy Blade, but you really should take Unholy Blade and AoE. So I struggle with the setup of this class, and the Festering Wounds I think is still a little bit of a strange mechanic. It's just annoying to get it going. So this tier set, for those of you guys who want to play Unholy DK, it's going to be a good tier set, okay? It's going to give you lots of extra AoE damage. It's going to smooth that out for you. It's going to give you single target damage, but I still think it's frustrating to play Unholy DK. That's just kind of my final conclusion. So I will not be playing this in the next patch, but I think actually the tier set bonus is strong. I think it's actually good. So if you want to play it, you should play it, okay? That's the first one out of the way. Let's move on to the next spec. All right, spec number 2 is Arms Warrior. I did a video on this recently. And I actually kind of like this new tier set bonus coming out of Arms Warrior. I think it's fairly interesting. However, it is, I think, a little bit boring, and it's a little bit one-dimensional. So it's kind of cool, right? Your Rend can now trigger your sudden death, and then when you use sudden death, when you use an execute and it has sudden death buffed on it, you'll do this big thunderclap slam, which will reapply Rend. So I think like with your talents, you could decidedly invest into things like Thunderous Words to increase your bleed damage. And then you've got Bloodborne, you've got Bloodletting, and potentially Skull Splitter to rip that Rend damage out. So you could do a lot of Rend damage, and it's been my experience so far that your Rend ends up doing just a colossal amount of damage. But you are really dependent on getting these sudden death procs. And when you do this really big slam, and it seems really, really cool. But if you're not getting any of the sudden death procs at all, this is a really frustrating tier set bonus. So I haven't got another proc. I don't have another proc yet. I got one now. That's good. I'll press it. And if you press it with Sweeping Strikes up, you do actually get an execute on 2 targets, and it will spread that extra bleed to 2 different targets as well. There's another sudden death proc. I said I wasn't going to get very many, and of course, as soon as I say that, I start getting a ton of sudden death procs. So, again, I think this tier set bonus is actually fine. It's going to do a ton of Rend damage. You're really going to notice that Rend damage, which is super, super cool. It's not bugged anymore, so it's not proccing your Thunderclap. You can press Thunderclap by yourself. There's another execute right there. Boom, we just pressed it. So, it's a cool set. It's not going to massively change your rotation. As soon as you get a sudden death proc, you're going to press it, as you probably already did anyway. So it's not really going to change too much there, which means it's not super exciting. I think the talents are fairly self-explanatory. You want to go into the bleed stuff. And then the damage is going to be good. I think it's good. Your Rend damage is going to be shocking. I think it's going to really shock you how much damage you end up pumping out just from Rend alone, which is super cool. The Sweeping Strikes tech is kind of neat, where if you Sweeping Strikes that execute, the extra little bleed you get from the 4 set here does in fact go over to that second target as well. So it's fine. It's a little bit too boring for me, and I'm not much of a warrior player, honestly. I like Arms Warrior. It's been a flavorful thing for me recently, but it's really not my love. It's not my bread and butter. You also can't heal anything as like another spec on Warrior, so that's a big reason why I don't want to play it either. But for those of you who do want to play Arms Warrior, I think this is going to be fine. It's going to give you that amazing AoE damage. The Rend damage will be very surprising in AoE. It's going to be really, really huge. I think you might struggle a little bit on single target to proc the sudden death, because you're not having the extra Rends ticking to give you the sudden death proc. So I think it's going to be a little bit better on AoE and maybe potentially really bad on single target. We'll have to wait and see. So, but I would still encourage you to do it, because I think the damage is quite strong and it might actually end up working out for you. Okay, so that's Arms Warrior. Let's move on to Ret Paladin. God, this helmet looks so stupid. Doesn't this look so stupid? This is the new tier set bonus. I think Ret Paladin got done bad. All right, Ret Paladin. The tier set bonus is actually kind of interesting for Ret Paladin. It's got this 3-part piece to it where you press Blade of Wrath, you get the Expurgation dot, you throw a Judgment, that does extra damage, and then you get to use a Spender, and the Spender will proc twice. So, you know, 1, 2, 3. That's kind of how it works. It's a lot of damage. It's a lot of extra damage. If you look, Wrathful Sanction is my 3rd highest damage. That's just the extra. When I throw my Judgment at somebody that has Expurgation on them, the dot, it ends up doing a bunch of damage. So that's just that Judgment proc right there is Wrathful Sanction. On top of that, I'm getting Expurgation damage as well. On top of that, I'm getting my Divine Storm triggering twice. I think your opening burst window is still going to be gigantic as a Ret Paladin, as it always is, right? Divine Toll. Let me get this. Our Divine Toll is going to proc again. I'm messing this up, actually, really, really bad. We're going to get another Judgment here, all for free. The extra Judgments you get from Divine Toll will go into the targets that have Expurgation on them, which means you'll get to do a Spender that's going to proc twice. See, my Divine Storms are procking twice every single time. So it'll be about managing your Judgments and throwing your Judgments at the right time to make sure that you can get the double proc on your Spender. But my God, the damage from this thing is actually just really, really good. So I think it's going to be fine. It's very... It's just all about the damage, and you can see it's really, really crazy. Expurgation, Wrathful Sanction, that's my Scorching Torment from, I think from my Helmet Enchant or something. I don't know what it is, but the damage is looking really, really solid. It's a mouthful when you look at this tier set bonus. I think it's going to be fine. This is not something that I'm going to be maining by any means, but I think this is a very strong tier set bonus. Don't get me wrong. I think it's very, very strong. Your ability to keep this up on AoE, I think, is going to be like 100%, basically. Like, your Expurgation time, I'm at 91% right there. I wasn't even paying attention. So, you're going to be able to do this really well. It's going to be about how to throw those Judgments. so that the judgment hits the target that has expurgation, does the extra damage, and then gives you the ability to proc your spender twice. The extra spenders that you're proccing twice can proc things like Divine Purpose, which is super, super cool. So you can get an extra free proc. I think it's a lot of damage. It's going to be really, really strong in Mythic Plus, in AoE. I think it's going to be also fine in single target for the Templar's Verdict. Final Verdict, right? In single target, it'll trigger twice, which is going to be really, really great. Yeah, I think it's solid all around. Not something that I'm interested in playing in 10.2, but I promise you, if you want to pick this up, really your rotation isn't going to change that much, and it's going to do a buttload of damage. So that's Ret Paladin in a nutshell for you. A quick note here about the rogue specs going into 10.2. These got massively reworked. The class tree and then multiple talent trees got reworked as well for all the rogue specs. So this is pretty fresh. I haven't really been able to dig my heels into it too much. I think they're looking very, very good. If you're thinking of playing rogue in 10.2, they are looking very strong. Outlaw and Assassination, in my opinion, is the most approachable it's ever been in any expansion. If you didn't understand how to play Assassination Rogue like me, it's actually so easy now. There's a lot of multiple ways of like getting AoE damage, which used to be very difficult to get before. So I think Rogue's looking like it's in a good place. I'm not going to cover it in this video. I'm going to wait and do a full Rogue video, I think, at another date. Okay, so sorry about that, but just know that the specs are looking quite strong, just from my sort of initial test. Okay, that's the end of the first section. We're into the second section, which is, again, specs that I'm actually quite interested in, but I probably won't have time to play, realistically. But they're looking really interesting to me personally. So let's start with Windwalker Monk. Windwalker Monk, I've been picking up a lot more recently just because I've been really loving the Touch of Death stuff. I love this Fatal Flying Guillotine Touch of Death build. It is like my favorite thing ever. When you get a Touch of Death proc into like one other ability really quick into a second Touch of Death proc, it's just like suddenly it does all your damage, and I think it's kind of cool. Some people hate it, and I understand that, but I think it's pretty cool. The tier set bonus was a disaster when it first got made. Again, Blizzard, whoever is on the Monk team doesn't seem to understand how to play Windwalker Monk, because it used to be based on your auto attacks, which we know you don't auto attack during Spinning Crane Kick, you don't auto attack during Fist of Fury, so that was a horrible design. They fixed it. It's okay. It's actually a pretty interesting tier set bonus. Basically, your melee abilities all have a chance to buff your next Blackout Kick, and then your Blackout Kick will reduce the cooldown of major abilities like Strike of the Windlord, Rising Sun Kick, Fist of Fury, and Whirling Dragon Punch. And there might be a world in which you bring back Whirling Dragon Punch into the Monk rotation. Likely not, but there's a potential there. This doesn't necessarily... It changes your build a little bit. It kind of just depends like what you're thinking about when you're thinking about how a build works for Windwalker Monk. If you get the proc and it reduces the cooldown of your abilities, you have to be a little bit careful about how you're using it, because your abilities might already be off cooldown, in which case you don't want to use it. So right now my Rising Sun Kick's off cooldown. Now I'm going to use this. Now I'm going to use my Blackout Kick, and it brings back all my stuff. So there's a world where like your stuff is already on cooldown and you end up using that Blackout Kick, and it creates a bit of a problem for you. Like I have to use Fist of Fury right now. Then I'll use my Blackout Kick. That's going to cool stuff down. Then I'll use my Spinning Crane Kick into a Blackout Kick again, and I get my Fist of Fury right back. So that was a great example of where the cooldown reduction helps a lot. And I think that there's definitely going to be... You're going to have to pay really close attention to your abilities and how you're using them. There we go. Blackout Kick. I get the cooldown of Fist of Fury back, basically. We're almost there. Here we go. Thunder Fist into a Fist of Fury. And you can see how it kind of works. The cooldown reduction does work very, very well. But you're going to have to be careful that... Like, when you're in the middle of an AoE, when you're in the middle of other stuff going on in the dungeon, if you have to kick something, if you have to paralyze something, if you need to use Ring of Peace, you might like mess up your rotation for 1 second, and then you might use that Blackout Kick when like Rising Sun Kick and Strike of the Windlord and Fist of Fury are already off cooldown, and then you literally wasted the entire tier set bonus. So it's a bit risky, I think. It's a little bit risky, but it's definitely an interesting idea, and I think that if you get really good at it, if you learn how to kind of master it, then you could get some insane cooldown reduction on your abilities, and you might even want to take a Whirling Dragon Punch and work that into your rotation, because this can do a lot of damage. If you can cast this every like 10 seconds instead of every 20 seconds, then that might be really incredible in terms of the damage output. So I am very interested in this spec. I think the damage looks good, but the execution, the burden of execution is on you. If you screw this up, you're basically getting no extra damage. It's like, it's not a simple tier set bonus by any means. So I think it's good. I think the monks that are really good at this are going to get it. The monks that are like the Windwalker monks that are kind of not very good at it like me are going to struggle for a little while. So we'll see how it goes. But that's my impression of Windwalker Monk. Interesting, very dangerous. We'll see where it goes. Let's move on to the next spec. Let's move on to Feral Druid. I really want to make a note quickly about the Feral Druid forms that are coming. There are some really cool things happening here, guys. Look at this. If we go to Feral really quickly, look at some of these new... Oh, that's bear. Look at some of these new things you can get here. So let's move the camera over here. Look at this new stuff here. There's the bird one. Look at this bird one. Bird. It's like an owl cat. Look at how cool that is. There's like an owl cat, and then look at this. There's a fiery one. Look at this. This is like the new Dream Saber. It's called. Oh my God, does that ever look cool? So a great reason to pick up Druid, Feral Druid in particular, if you're thinking about it, is these new forms. They look so freaking cool, and I'm very excited about that. Yeah, that's a huge reason to want to play it. But let's talk about the performance of Feral Druid and why I'm interested in this spec. The tier set bonus is really cool. I love it when Blizzard focuses the tier set bonus on one ability, and in this case, it's Feral Frenzy. You press Feral Frenzy, it makes you do 20% more damage to everything else that you're doing, which is really good. That means that it has value in AoE, and it certainly has value in single target. And then your 4-piece bonus, Feral Frenzy's cooldown down by 15 seconds, and the damage, during Smoldering Frenzy, enemies burn for 10% of all the damage that you deal. That includes extra damage that you're getting from, like, your Berserk Bleed, like, anything else that you're, as far as I can tell, trinkets are included in that. That might have changed, but this is looking really, really good, and in particular, I think it's going to boost Feral Druid's single target. My issue with Feral Druid has always been that, like, I hate the way that the talent tree is set up, the way that you're supposed to play it. I always want to take Wild Slashes instead of Brutal Slash. I always want to take Lion Strength instead of Blood Talons. I always want to take Convoke instead of Incarnation, which is what you're supposed to take. So it frustrates me how much I'm always like feel like I'm running out of energy, and I just want to take 2 points into Tireless Energy, but I know that it's wrong, and I'm like an idiot for wanting to do that. Do you know what I'm saying? So a little bit of frustration there on the tree. I do think there's some really interesting stuff going on with Feral Frenzy and Convoke. There might be a really good reason to take Convoke. As you know, Convoke can cast Feral Frenzy, and it will proc your Smoldering Frenzy from the tier set bonus. So you'll get 20% more damage from a Convoked Feral Frenzy. So there's some really interesting stuff going on here. If we pop Berserk, we're going to go like this, and then we're going to do our Feral Frenzy into another one. Then we're going to Convoke, and it replaced my Feral. So I had the Smoldering up. I actually probably should have spaced that out more. I should just space that out better. That was a really dumb play of me, but that's what you can do. You can get a Convoke off, and that Convoke will cast Feral Frenzy for you, which is super, super cool. Now, is that going to be better than just taking Incarn? I don't know. Like, probably not. Incarn is still incredibly strong. But if you could space it out instead of what I did, maybe it's good. Here comes another Feral Frenzy. And we've got our Smoldering buff right now, so we're going to do as much damage as we can. There we go. You can see the damage is fine. The damage is absolutely fine. This is only on, like, 5 targets. This is... You're going to do way more damage. But look, now I'm running out of energy because I don't really know how to play this spec very well, I guess. I'm bad at it. I'm not really sure what it is. But Feral Frenzy's coming back. We're going to do one more of those. It's all about your Feral Frenzy. Oops, there we go. We'll do one more combo here. Then we go Feral Frenzy with Tiger Lust. Line it up. Knock him down. We're going to wait till our buff expires here. Buff is expiring in 3, 2, 1. Now we Convoke. And hopefully we get another one. We didn't get one, so that was very unlucky. But that's what you're kind of doing. You're kind of fishing for it like that. I think it's looking strong. I think it's looking super strong. Like, look at the damage here. Rip, Break, Brutal Slash, Terror from Wounds, Feral, Ferocious Bite. There's your Burning Frenzy. That's the, when you have Smoldering Frenzy, 10% of the damage is going to be done there. So very, very good. I think the damage is going to be absolutely fine. I love getting cooldown reduction on Feral Frenzy because it's a free 5 combo points, which is incredibly strong for Feral Druid. It's looking good, guys. It's looking very, very good. If you're interested in playing the cat, not only do you have amazing new forms to look at, which you can get in the Dream Surge and stuff, but this Feral Frenzy business, it's very simple, but it's very effective, and I love that they're focusing their attention onto one major ability like that with Feral Frenzy. Now, you do have to take this ability, which is maybe, I think you were probably going to be taking it anyway, but however else you want to build your talent tree, if you still want to take Incarn, that's probably totally viable, but if you want to try and play with Convoke and fish around for that second Feral Frenzy slap, you can do that, which I think is super cool as well. So I wish I had time to play with this. I'll probably get to play with it at the very, very tail end of 10.2, but this is looking very, very cool. If you're thinking about playing Feral Druid, please pick it up. It's looking awesome. You're going to have a lot of fun, okay? Deja vu, baby. We're back on the DK. This time we're Frost DK. This is a really, really, really good tier set bonus. Once again, just like Feral Druid, where it focuses on one ability, this is the exact same thing. It's focusing on Chill Streak for Frost DK. I was about to say Frost Druid. Woo! Chill Streak is not an ability that has really been taken at all in any of the builds right now for Frost DK because it just wasn't performing well enough to warrant it. This tier set bonus really buffs your ability to take Chill Streak, and it gives you a bonus in single target where the Chill Streak can bounce off of you, and you're going to be getting that 4% damage bonus stacking up to 20%. You're basically going to have that all the time. This thing's really, really cool. It's going to give you a bunch of resource generation, and I think that it's a solid addition to the damage. I think I actually have a... Yeah, I have... Training dummy. Yeah, look at this. So look at Chill Streak's damage. Oh, that was my breath build. I think you can do a breath build. I don't have the weapons set up for it, so I really probably shouldn't have even tested it. But you can definitely do a breath build if you want, or you can do an obliterate build like this. And look at Chill Streak's damage. 15.5% of your damage. Obliterate doing 30%. Like, it's going to be absolutely fine. You're going to do tons and tons of damage. This is a setup that I kind of had working for me with the Obliterate build. You can try a Breath of Sindragosa build. This thing has the potential to generate a bunch of resources for you, right? It has a chance to give you a rune, reduce Chill Streak's cooldown, or reduce Empower Rune Weapons cooldown by 6 seconds, which is great because that gives you Runic Power and a rune and haste. It's very, very good. So this set is exciting. I think it's going to be actually quite powerful. And if you're thinking of playing Frost DK, you should absolutely do it for Mythic Plus. It's also going to be good for Raid. It's going to buff your single target damage because that bounce is going to go off you and just make you do even more damage and potentially give you a bunch of resources. So I actually love this. This is exactly how Blizzard should be making tier set bonuses. This is very, very powerful. And I don't think there's really even a downside here. The only downside I could say is that you have to take both of these talents, Chill Streak and probably Enduring Chill, in order to make this work, which is going to take talent points away from somewhere else. So maybe you don't get the Gathering Storm for Remorseless Winter. Maybe you're not getting Icebreaker, whatever the case might be, right? So I think this is really strong. I think it's going to be a fantastic cooldown or tier set. I love that it's focused on one ability that's only a 45-second cooldown. I absolutely love it. So if you're thinking of playing Frost DK, jump in and get in on Season 3. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, baby, we're down to the final 4. The final 4 specs. This is the section of the video that includes specs that I am going to be playing, either as alts, or as alt-alts, or as alt-alt-alts, or as my main. All right, so we're going to start with Shadow Priest, and this is the most... Calm down, TrueFi, GCD. This is my favorite tier set bonus, tied with another spec. There's 2 specs that are my favorite. This is one of them. Shadow Word Death triggers 2 additional times. It is the Death Speaker build. We are going full freaking Death Speaker. I could not be more happy. I absolutely love this build and this playstyle. I love the tier set bonus. Yes, there's been some nerfs to Shadow Priest, like a lot of nerfs, but I promise you, this thing is going to be fun and it's going to be powerful. It's actually just going to be awesome. Let me start off here. We'll do this into this. Watch this. Watch our damage here. Shadow Word Death. We get a Devouring Plague out. Shadow Word Death. Our damage is solid right off the bat. We have to wait for procs. This is the only real problem with the set is you're waiting to get these procs, potentially. But Shadow Word Death has such a low cooldown. And in Mythic Plus, you're going to be getting those execute procs when an enemy gets really, really low, and you can hit them with the execute touch of death, or Shadow Word Death, sorry, and you're going to get all these extra procs. But it just feels so good to play, and I promise you, you're going to love it. It's very mobile. Devouring Plague lets you move. Shadow Word Death lets you move. Shadow Word Pain lets you move while you cast it. Instant cast. Mind Blast. Shadow Crashes. Instant cast. There are so many things that are instant cast with this build that it really gives you some flexibility that I think you guys are going to love playing with it. So I would say definitely, if you're thinking of playing Shadow Priest, there's really never been a better time. This thing is so awesome to play with. Here we go. Big window. Dark Ascension, Mindbender, big Shadow Crash, sorry, into our Shadow Word Death. We're going to spread another Devouring Plague over here. I love this build. Like, I absolutely love it. I think it's going to be so much fun. Love getting all the procs on Shadow Red Death. And when you're playing this in a dungeon, it actually feels 10 times better because you're getting those execute procs, as I said before. It's just really, really cool. So, love this thing. Can't wait to try it out in a real-world scenario. Your Shadow Red Death damage is going to be really, really high. Your Shadow Crash damage is going to hit pretty hard, actually. And then on single target, there's actually kind of an interesting sort of secret tech here, is that each time you take damage, your Shadow Word, from Shadow Word Death, your next Shadow Word Pain or Shadow Crash damage goes up by a lot, right? Shadow Word Pain can end up hitting for like 300k on a single target boss. If you get enough of the Shadow Word Death things stacked up, your Shadow Word Pain can literally hit for 300k and then do some ticking damage afterwards. But it's pretty cool to have that happen. And your Shadow Crash can start hitting really hard as well. You get a fully buffed Shadow Crash. It did 143,000 damage there. So I am in love with this set. I think the only weakness of it is going to be in single target where you don't have multiple potential procs on Death Speaker. Remember, Death Speaker is procced by your Shadow Word Pain damage, okay? They did do a little bit of an adjustment to this. So if you're on single target, your Shadow Word Pain is more likely to trigger that Death Speaker, but I still find that when I'm doing it on AoE, it triggers my Shadow Word Death a lot more versus single target. So you might be a little bit weaker on single target. We'll have to really wait and see until we can get into it. But regardless, I am so excited to try this out. This is not going to be my main. This is going to be an alt character for me that I play because I'm just really, really excited about it. I'm going to put some time into this, but it's not going to be my initial main character that I'm leveling, okay? Let's move on to the next spec. All right, Survival Hunter, baby. Oh my God, I love Survival Hunter. I don't know because it's me playing it recently, but I love Survival Hunter in general. If you're gonna play Hunter, you have to go melee. That's my rule. I don't know why you would want to go ranged playing a Hunter spec anyway. The tier set bonus for 10.2 is focused on Fury of the Eagle. So just like Feral Druid, just like Frost DK, it's focused on one ability. This is exactly how they should build tier set bonuses. I love this tier set bonus. It makes Fury of the Eagle this incredibly monstrous ability now. So when you press Fury of the Eagle, it gives you this crit buff. And what you're going to want to try and do is fit as many other abilities into the crit buff as possible. So I try and fit Explosive Shot, Death Chakram, and the Birds of Prey kill shots all into this Fury of the Eagle window. So what we do is we summon our pet first, because we do have a pet. Want to make sure that's there. We're going to go in. We're going to press Death Chakram, Explosive Shot, Fury of the Eagle. All that damage is going to be inside the Fury of the Eagle window. We go Coordinated Assault. Our first kill shots, sorry. Second round of kill shots. We're still inside this window. Here's our debuff at the top. We're still inside the window. Last kill shots are going to be inside the window, and they're going to get that extra crit chance and the extra crit damage. The last set of kill shots that we get don't get the buff, but the point is, those other ones do. And then you could throw Red Bomb, Kill Command, Kill Command, Kill Command. Guess what? Explosive Shot is back, and Fury of the Eagle is back. I'm going to get it inside that crit window once again. Amazing. That's exactly how you want to be playing it. So you're basically like throwing out a bajillion bombs, and then once you get a red bomb, you can fish around to try and get a couple of kill commands going to reduce the cooldown of Fury of the Eagle so that it lines up really, really well with that with Explosive Shot in order to give you the most damage you can possibly ask for. So here we go once again. Fury of the Eagle into an Explosive Shot. It'll have that crit buff once again, and it's going to be awesome. We still have the crit buff up here. I really love it. I really love this set. I can't get enough of it. I promise. Like, this set, this is almost just as fun for me as the Death Speaker build on Shadow Priest. Like, I love this set so much. I love pressing Fury of the Eagle a lot, and I love what it's doing for you when you do press it. So this is incredibly fun to play. If you're thinking of playing Survival Hunter, if you're thinking of playing Hunter at all, don't play the range specs like an absolute noob. Play the melee Hunter spec like everybody should be playing. This thing is going to clap in Mythic Plus, and it's also going to give you a lot of extra damage on single target because the 4-piece bonus gives you 40% more Wildfire Bomb damage on single target, and then we're also getting 40% more Wildfire Bomb damage from the current tier set bonus. That's carrying over into the next season. So you'll have essentially 80% more single target damage with your Wildfire Bombs, which is going to be fantastic. So I love this thing. I love it. Can't get enough of it. If you're thinking of playing Survival Hunter in 10.2, absolutely pick it up. This is going to be one of my main alts that I am playing in 10.2. Not my main, but my main alt. Okay, let's move on to the next spec. All right, baby, it's Shaman time. The Shaman is going to be partly my main. We're going to talk about this in a second. We're looking right now at Enhancement Shaman, and believe it or not, this is going to be another like main ult that I'm playing. I think realistically speaking, I'm gonna have Enhancement Shaman and Survival Hunter. They're gonna be vying for that like main ult spot, and then Shadow Priest is gonna be like right there too, like fighting him, because I have so much time on my hands. I'm gonna be able to play all of them. Enhancement Shaman is looking really, really cool. This tier set bonus works for multiple builds. You can do a storm-based build with this new tier set bonus. You just have to tack on Molten Assault onto your storm build, which is really, really, it's absolutely fine. You can also add in some interesting tech with like Tempest Strikes. Ends up doing a buttload of damage, actually. Did I have it here? Oh no, that was the other spec that I'm looking at. Oh, there it is there. Tempest Strikes actually does a lot of damage, even if you're on AoE. So I actually kind of love that for a little bit of a single target boost when you get to like Mythic Plus boss fights. But here's an example of a Storm build that you can run. But you can also run the Elementals build, and I think the Elementals build will be really, really strong in 10.2 for Enhancement Shaman. I think it's going to be really, really good. So the bonus is really cool. You kind of have to invert the way that you were playing it before, where you would summon your wolves and then do Primordial Wave. Now you need to do Primordial Wave, because every time you summon a wolf, it reduces the cooldown of Primordial Wave, and you can just see how quickly that happens. Primordial Wave, spread it around. Wolves, we'll do one more over here just for fun. Big Lightning Bolt. Okay, then we go. My cooldown on Primordial Wave is actually almost already back, which is completely disgusting, but that's how it works. And my wolves are coming back as well. Look at my wolves coming back at the exact same time as Primordial Wave is. Here we go. It's going to be close, actually. We'll do one more Storm Strike into a Crash Lightning. Primordial Wave. Then my wolves are back because they reduce the cooldown of my wolves. Now my wolves reduce the cooldown of Primordial Wave. So it's going to be this sort of pull and tug and pull, this back and forth, on Primordial Wave versus your wolves, and one of them is going to be cooling down the other one. It's going to be some interesting gameplay, and again, you're getting that extra Lightning Wolf, which comes out, increasing your nature damage by 20% for 15 seconds. Very, very cool. But it's about that 4-piece. It's about Primordial Wave reducing your dogs because of this right here, because of Primal Maelstrom mixed with Witchwatcher's Ancestry. So your Primordial Wave will reduce your dogs will reduce your Primordial Wave, and they keep working in tandem. I think it's really fun. It's fine. It's good for every build that you want to do on Enhancement Shaman. It's actually going to be quite strong in Mythic Plus, I would say, in particular, because you get the Lightning Cleave, and then you get the massive amount of haste coming from Splintered Elements. It's really good. They also buff Splintered Elements to be better on single target, which is great. I think you could take this easily into a single target raid boss fight, and it's worth it now because you get the 20% haste up front, even just on one target. So I like what they're doing with Enhancement Shaman. I think it's really good. This is going to be an ult that I'm playing, a main ult. This is not going to be my main DPS spec. And I guess by process of elimination, you guys can see by now that my main DPS spec going into 10.2 is going to be Elemental Shaman. Man, this thing is completely ridiculous. This tier set bonus is definitely my favorite. Again, the Death Speaker one and even the Survival Hunter one, I love all three of them. I think this tier set bonus is just a little bit above those other ones, and it's actually been nerfed in recent like literally a couple days ago it got nerfed again, but it's still performing very, very strong. The AoE damage on this thing is completely ridiculous. And yes, I know people say it's a little bit one-dimensional, but once you start playing this thing, you begin to understand why it is so much goddamn fun. It is just so crazy to me how fun this thing is to play. You get your Primordial Wave going, and boom, I'm already into Ascendance, because, you know, we just have that luck, streamer luck right now, trying to show off how good this is. We immediately get a proc. That's just the way it goes. The amount of meatballs you get and the amount of cooldown reduction you get on Primordial Wave is so insane. It's just so crazy. And you just get meatball after meatball, volley after volley of meatballs, permanent cooldown reduction on your Fire Ellie. It is so much fun to play this thing and just to see all the meatballs flying. I'm telling you guys, it's really, really good. I need to get a macro for my Earthquake, but it's just really fun to play. That's my bottom line. And you get a lot of instant cast procs, which means you can move around basically while you're casting all the time, and you can just see all the meatballs just flying out like that. So I think this is going to be hella fun to play, and I can't wait to take this into Mythic Plus and to really get it going. There's a little bit of finessing you have to do to make sure that you don't lose your flame shocks and stuff, to make sure you're trying to get as many procs as possible. But the reality is you just get procs like this all the time. It ends up doing so much extra damage, and it's just Really fun. There's another Primordial Wave back already. Look at that. And we go again. So I really love the meatballs. I think it's super, super fun. The only real caveat I would say is that on single target, you're not going to get as many procs as you otherwise might because you don't have all the extra flame shocks giving you Lava Surge, right? So you're gonna have less Lava Surge procs, which means you're gonna have less casts of Lava Burst, which means you're gonna be cooling down Lava Burst a little bit more slowly with Rolling Magma. Or Primordial Wave, I'm sorry. You're going to be cooling down Primordial Wave a little bit more slowly on single target. And they did just give us a recent nerf to the damage of Elemental Blast and the length of the buffs that you get in it for Elemental Blast, which again is sort of a single target nerf. But it's still going to be really, really strong. I promise you, it's going to be fine. I would not worry about these nerfs whatsoever. It's going to be really, really strong. And ultimately, it's going to be really, really fun. And that is the biggest thing that I look for in a tier set bonus coming into a new season. Is it going to be fun? Is it going to be interesting? Yes, it is. There's lots of procs to think about. There's lots of timings to think about. When do I throw my Primordial Wave? When do I refresh the cooldown on my Liquid Magma Totem? I love having to think about what I'm doing in my rotation. I love proc-based gameplay, and it does crazy damage in AoE. It's going to be so much fun. So I can't wait to dig into Ellie Shaman. I'm going to be giving Ellie Shaman a full go in 10.2 as my main DPS in the season. I'm going to give it a real go. I promise you guys, okay? So stay tuned for that. If you've been missing out on Ellie Shaman content, there's going to be a lot of it coming for you in 10.2 as it's going to be my main DPS character, okay? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about all of this stuff. What are you going to pick as your main? I hope to help you guys understand all the different specs, why I like them, why I don't like them, why you might like them, why you might want to try them. Please let me know in the comments down below what you're going to be playing as your main DPS character in 10.2. I would love to hear from all of you guys down there. Thank you so much again for watching. I love you all. I will see you in the next one.